This episode of Bend the Knee is brought to you by Maester Evans of the Citadel. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Bend the Knee, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I am Sir Matt, the Bud Knight.
And I am Sir Ezra the Watchful. Welcome to our Song of Ice and Fire book club. Today we are into Chapter 16, Eddard 3, A Game of Thrones, and The Dance of Dragons in a World of Ice and Fire. Don't forget our phone number is 614-547-2350, and our email is btkcast@gmail.com. Send those ravens each and every week for our follow-up Friday session. So, how's it going, Sir Matt?
It's going okay.
You're back?
Yeah, I was on vacation this past weekend in the Kingdom of Portland. I don't think I've really adjusted back via time schedule yet. Doing some new things at work. My main department's kind of slow, so now I'm working in another department. So,
wow, I
feel all over the place. And I believe, Sir Ezra, you're about to leave for vacation.
Yeah, I'm about to go to the Kingdom of Always Hot. Always Hot down in Florida.
Yeah,
so,
I believe there's a magical kingdom where you're going.
Yes, I'm actually going to conquer that kingdom while I'm down there.
Yeah, he's got to go see exactly what this.
There's a knight there, Sir Mickey.
Yeah.
Of House Disney, I think.
Yeah. House Walt.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's basically the update there.
You're gonna cross over the Space Mountain.
Oh my gosh.
No,
probably not.
Yeah.
But anyways, that should be fun. So yeah, we're doing that. I'll be gone for about a week, so should be a lot of fun. Hopefully, work on my farmer stand down there, and have a good time, I guess.
Yeah. Be careful of the gators.
Man, I'm so afraid.
They're out there.
They're out. My cousin was like, "Yeah, let's maybe we'll go fishing out here, in the what?" No,
man,
you kidding me?
I'm out.
Not unless I've got the Sword of the Morning or something with me. I'm not going.
I'm out. Mountain gators, chronic man. They're down there.
Right, exactly.
You gotta be careful.
You do. So, all right, let's jump into. Well, we're kind of already there, the small council, but
yeah, I mean. Man, gee, was there any news? I can't think of any news that was announced at all. I mean, we did talk about it a little bit in Follow-Up Friday. But, yeah, we'll talk about it again here. A prequel announced. Pilot. We got it. Kind of a big deal, I guess.
Yeah, no news.
Yeah,
right,
no
big
news,
news,
everybody.
Whatever, pretty big deal, right? So... What does that mean? What are they saying, Sir Matt? That
pilot episode ordered. It's gonna. Everybody's kind of speculating where all of these things where these prequels are gonna take place. And it seems like the first one we're getting is Long Night, kind of Age of Heroes.
Yeah. Wow. I would love for our listeners to send us if you have specific ravens about what you think about for that. Prequel show, and we'll do them right here in Small Council. We'll open the show up, and if you've got some good speculation, thoughts, or theories as to what you think could be happening, so that's sort of our time to speculate a little bit on the show, what could be coming in, the next season of Game of Thrones. But then with this prequel stuff, it's kind of exciting to say, well, that's the time frame. I
also read that HBO is not sending any Game of Thrones panels or Westworld panels to Comic-Con this year.
Really?
Yeah, and their reasoning was simply like, "Hey, they're still
doing stuff, right?
Still doing stuff, yeah. Because even though they may be done shooting,
right?
They start doing, they need actors to fly back in, get in costume for promotional stuff. Hey, we need pictures, we need, and sometimes they may do audio over if, like sometimes if they'll do, we need you to do voice work, just sometimes you have explosions and stuff and can't pick it up, so they go in and they do all that kind of post stuff. So
gotcha. Wow. Well, that's exciting. You got any initial thoughts on gut feeling as to what it could be?
The show
for the show. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about this Follow-Up Friday, but I for me it comes into I just think that I I think it's kind of like we talked about this a little bit kind of with Star Wars, where it's kind of like, hey, go do don't touch the main series, go way back and do like Old Republic kind of stuff. And I kind of feel like that's what's happening here, is that maybe Gur is like, I'm never going to get to that, so it's kind of a cool thing. And in the books, we talk about this a lot. The show, it's like we don't really have a lot of history on the White Walkers, all this stuff, so maybe that's a way for them to kind of do that.
Okay, that's kind of cool. Yeah. I'm just thinking during that time when it's before the conquest, thousands of years of time before, Aegon, right? Think of all of the different the kings, right?
Absolutely.
All the different kings and what you could do with.
Yeah, so it's going to be like, oh God, what's his name? Greenhand.
Garth
Greenhand. Yeah. So stuff like that,
Yeah, that
Bran the Builder,
right,
possibly.
and his children. His children, and
a lot more magic based. Do you think?
It actually probably might have
way
more magic.
Probably it's not. I don't think it'll be like as political based as
it might. It might not be. I mean, it's one of those things like they could go. It does sometimes feel like Gur has pulled from a Wheel of Time, and that things can be cyclical, right? And they could. So you could go to a time where the glass candle doesn't light, right? Or something where it's a time where magic is not in the world as much as maybe, and then where it kind of grows for a little bit, comes back, and then it goes away. Grows, comes back, goes away. Because we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands of years. That's how far they're going back.
Yeah.
And so it's cool because you'll see probably the kingdoms, look a little more, or the holds might look a little more primitive, maybe not though. It's one of those things with like technology, like things that can be lost over time. I don't know. You got Storm's End where the keep has been kept for. They had to rebuild it so many different times. So that there's stories there that I think we could get into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say this because people have asked just on Twitter and stuff. Yes, I think it's obviously going to be good. I'm very glad that it is HBO that's handling it, not anyone else. I mean, just go back and look at HBO's track record, and essentially, oddly enough, they kind of make the same show over and over again, and they just put it in different settings. Like, go watch The Wire, which is like Baltimore, like downtown Baltimore kind of drug thing, I think. And then you've got like Deadwood, which we've both watched, really good. It's still that very suspenseful, high drama. Westworld. I'm not really into Westworld as much, but I know people that really love it and think it's like the best show on television. And then, you got Game of Thrones and all that kind of stuff. So they just continuously make excellent quality content. And
I'm glad they're doing it as well. And I think they can get super creative and stuff. They've seen talking to, George Martin, right? They know the style, the way that things should work, the themes that he uses and stuff like that. So, there'll be continuity and the garb and all that good stuff, sets and things. So that'll be good. Something interesting. I pulled up a quote here just about I guess now this is the Age of Heroes, right? Is that what we're kind of talking about? Is that what they said for sure? So it's nothing. Okay, so more Age of Heroes, right? But, well, no, I guess I won't read that now. The oldest histories we have here were written after the Andals came to Westeros. The first men only left us ruins on rocks, so everything we know about the Age of Heroes and the Dawn Age and the Long Night comes from the accounts set down by Septons thousands of years later. All right, so there are archmaesters at the Citadel who question all of it. Those old histories are full of kings who reigned for 100 years and knights riding around 1,000 years before there were knights. That's Samwell talking to John just about some of this stuff here from the Dawn Age, the Long Night, and the Age of Heroes. And we covered this a couple episodes ago. Actually, when we first started, like the third episode, I think it was. But you're gonna have a lot of various some good stories to tell. I think and I think it will be interesting to sort of see how. These ancient houses are there. We will hear some common names. We'll also see. I'm just thinking like, they might explain some of this. Like, did people live longer?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Or is it more of just like the same names where they just things got lost over the histories?
Well, I mean, think about this. Think about like, what if it does end up that Bran Stark is like, there's that theory that all Brans are the same. Like, he goes back in time. What if What if this is actually a sequel to Game of Thrones, where he goes, he like puts himself back in time and like he tries to correct it, but he jacks everything up, maybe kind of like a Flashpoint type of a thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That'd be radical. That would be radical.
Anyway, so the people, so it says it is going to be co-created by Gurr and Jane Goldman. Goldman's screenwriting credits include Kick-Ass and Kingsman: The Secret Service. So,
okay.
Good hands. I thought Kick-Ass was pretty cool.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, so that's cool.
I haven't seen Kingsman, but I've heard a lot of people really like it.
Yeah.
That looks cool.
Interesting. I like to see if there's any more works underneath that name, but very different than what we're into here. But yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. All right. I think that's it for Small Council, right?
Yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's dive on into the Maester's study.
Whew.
And it's a decent size one. We have trimmed it down as much as we can.
Technically, the chapter is Aegon 2, I believe, right? In the book, I believe it's technically
Aegon 2. Is it? Is it Aegon 2?
Yeah.
Wow. So it's his reign, and it's the
this one of all the chapters we've read so far. This one's kind of the weirdest because it's Aegon 2, but it's just all about the Dance of Dragons.
Yeah, I better get there myself and take a...
Yeah, here we go. Let's just go ahead and start it. No war was ever bloodier or crueler than the Dance of Dragons, as the singers and Munkin have chosen to name it. It was the worst kind of a war between siblings, despite Viserys' unwavering preference for Rhaenyra, or how do you pronounce it? Rhaenyra.
Mm-hmm.
Prince Aegon was convinced to take up his father's crown by his mother and the small council before Viserys' one corpse was cold. When Rhaenyra and the Princess of Dragonstone learned of it, she fell into a rage. She was, at this time, in confinement at Dragonstone, awaiting the birth of her third child to Prince Daemon. And then I have another really huge quote here, which I think kind of sums it up even better. Brother fought brother, father fought son, and the whole realm bled.
Wow. Yeah. Good point.
So last week we were doing Viserys the First,
right? Mm-hmm.
And that we that kind of led us into this.
Yeah, we briefly mentioned just that the Council of 101, the Great Council, where they were talking about the succession, Jaehaerys had set up that it should pass to. It was set up to protect the male line, make sure that the males sat on the throne. I think Viserys Targaryen was actually okay with that. He was actually the grandson of Jaehaerys the First, and it passes over Jaehaerys the First eldest granddaughter, which is I think is Rhaena Targaryen, who sits on the Black Council during the Dance of Dragons. I think she marries Cor's Valerion. I think is who it is. And
these names might start getting confusing.
Oh, they're confused the heck out of me, guys. Wow, it's a lot to keep track of. But so you had the granddaughter who was passed over for Viserys. Now, I think during his reign, he was probably okay at the start, hoping he had a son. Right, he was hoping he had a son. He just never had one. By Emma Arryn, he never had a son. She had two that died within a year, and so after the second one had died, he basically says, that Rhaenyra is going to be his heir. And declares that, right?
Yeah, at the Great Council. At the Great Council 101, he officially declared that Rhaenyra was Princess of Dragonstone and his heir. A grandson ceremony. This is from last week's passage.
Yeah.
A grand ceremony was arranged in which hundreds of lords knelt to do homage to the princess while she sat at her father's feet. Prince Daemon was not among them.
Right. Yep. So anyways, let's dive into. We just get a couple brief points here. Viserys dies in 129 AC. So you imagine the Great Council is in 101. And so I forget when I think he started his reign. It was shortly after 101, wasn't it? So anyways, he's married to Emma Arryn and has Rhaenyra, but Emma dies as we mentioned. He is basically strong-armed by I think it was Otto Hightower, wasn't it? Hand to the king, and the Hightowers are just power hungry, always trying to elevate themselves. And he wants, him to marry Queen Alicent Hightower, and he does. and they actually that's his second wife, and he has Aegon. He has a couple kids. He's got Aegon the Elder, Helena, Aemon, and Darren. So those are his kids there with her. So technically, he has what 5 kids there that live to adulthood. Once he dies, and when he dies, he's assuming that Rhaenyra is going to be, the new queen. It was kind of a shock, but he's the king, and he made that is his decision, decree, right? Been his royal decree, and people came and pledged themselves. As soon as he dies, Rhaenyra is actually at Dragonstone, right? And she's pregnant there. She has a few kids herself, which we'll get to at the time. And basically, the crown is stolen from her, essentially. The Hightowers, they actually keep don't they keep like the death of King Viserys secret for like a couple days, I think?
Yep.
Yeah, they keep it secret, and they plot to crown Aegon the Elder, her eldest son, and that works. So one of the first major event that we have in the Dance of Dragons, or to get Aegon II the crown, as we're talking about Aegon II, was the small council meeting post death of Viserys, and the only person who really opposed this whole idea, Lord Beesbury, I think he was Master of Coin. He ends up opposing this, and he says, no, we all pledged that Rhaenyra Targaryen would be the next heir. She'd be the next ruler. And he's actually killed right there on that council meeting by Sir Criston Cole. And interesting fact here about Sir Criston Cole, he at one point in time was romantically interested or invested in Rhaenyra Targaryen, who is supposed to be the heir. And he's the one who kills the guy, Lord Beesbury, for saying, we should give it to Rhaenyra. So he's like switched sides big time.
And that happens again. That happens again, yeah.
That's like the theme of the Dance of Dragons, really. You get people jumping sides here and there. And I think part of the reason why is that at one point, Rhaenyra is engaged to, I think it's a Valerian it's someone. It's her first husband. I don't know if you can find that, Sir Matt, but I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. But so I think he just gets pissed, and then he ends up, because at one point he's wearing her favor at tourneys. He's calling her when he wins. He would probably have called her the queen of what is it of beauty, right? And anyways, he ends up switching sides and becomes Alicent Hightower's little whatever, and he's working to get Aegon II in there. So now, once that small council meeting happens, something interesting takes place. Steffon Darkland.
The first person she marries is Laenor Valerian, 114 AC.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, an interesting tidbit about him. He was one of the. He was very young when the granddaughter of Jaehaerys I, when Rhaenyra Targaryen was passed over, the queen who was passed over, he also was passed over. They were having this council to sort of decide. He was one of the people who was in the running and was passed over. Now, it says, and I think part of this comes from, what's the book? What's the novella that we're going to be reading?
For the Patreon,
Princess and the Queen.
Princess and the Queen, that's good. So that we're gonna do another Black Council for our patrons, which is super in depth, where we're gonna be pulling.
That's where people get the information for the Dance of Dragons.
Dance of Dragons, yeah. So you have that, and then we pull from like the wiki, which pulls from chapters.
Yeah, and the World of Ice and Fire.
The World of Ice and Fire. Yeah, the World of Ice and Fire for the Dance of Dragons. I mean, technically, again, it's Aegon II's chapter, but it's mostly just Dance of Dragon, and it's a very brief kind of overview of it.
Right, and it's still as long.
It's long,
it's still long. But so anyways, in the Princess and the Queen, Laenor Valerian is actually probably, it indicates that he is gay and that he is not interested in being with Rhaenyra Targaryen, and he ends up being killed. Now, underneath, when she was wed to him, she does have 3 children. Let's see who those are. Let's see, including I don't know. Let's see this guy's name. Jacaerys, I think.
Yeah.
Lucerys and Joffrey, right? And it's rumored that those could be Sir Harwin Strong's kids. And Sir Harwin Strong was someone else. Again, we'll get into all these. We're just kind of giving you little nuggets here for things that could happen in the Black Council. Actually, they will happen. We will talk about this in depth. But there was this whole kind of love triangle. You had Sir Criston Cole, and you had Sir Harwin Strong, Rhaenyra Targaryen. There was all this stuff that was kind of going on, right? And then she's betrothed to Lenore Valerion, and it just sort of, upset everybody. And it's believed that Harwin Strong is the one who actually gives her kids, because they have like really dark hair. Didn't we talk about this last episode a little bit, I think, and that they didn't look like they were Targaryens, and that his seed was sort of what, they looked a lot like the, Strong family, right? Of House Strong. And I think Viserys actually is so upset by it that anybody who says that they're bastard children, he was going to cut their tongues out at one point. So he's super pissed about that. But she has some kids, and in her first marriage, after that first marriage is over, and Lenore might have been killed. There's a whole piece where he might have actually been killed off by her in some way. She actually weds her uncle, Daemon Targaryen. He was brother to Viserys I, which we talked about last chapter, and all of his power hungry, trying to be, what was he trying to be, king of the Stepstones and stuff like that. Yeah. Which was wild. So now the part that I was getting to there, I got kind of sidetracked. Steffon Darkland defects from the Greens to the Blacks. He actually steals the crown of Viserys I to present it to Rhaenyra as a gift, allowing her to declare herself queen wearing her father and grandfather's crown. Now, Sir Matt's been paying attention to the crowns and the swords, and as they pass down. And we've got more work to do on that and things coming that we want to talk about. But that's interesting that in A Dance of Dragons as to who...
And Sir Ezra, something that our listeners won't know, but I'm actually going to post this on our page.
Okay.
Do you remember a long time ago we found this family tree here?
Yes.
So this actually has a timeline on it.
Awesome.
On the side, and it kind of shows you who's king and what's going on. And if you look at the pictures, because people thankfully have pulled from the wiki from this, has which crown everyone's wearing.
Oh, does it have which crown?
Yeah, well, you can just kind of see because it's in the picture. They
get the ruby crown, or they get the
But it only does like kings, kind of, and like important people. So it doesn't list like when they have like 16 people.
Yeah, or their children who weren't.
Because even on the wiki, so this is why it gets really tough to follow. Even on the wiki, they kind of section it off like into eras. So you can't just click on one person and go, because then it's like then it leads you all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's really the whole thing is really confusing, and that's why we're trying to we're really trying to track the swords and the swords and the crowns, because I think there's also another part to it.
Yeah.
Which we see here is the difference between King's Landing and Dragonstone. And some people are heir to Dragonstone, and even in A Clash of Kings, that's a big reason as to why Stannis is pissed.
He's
pissed because
the heir typically sits.
He said that I should have Storm's End, not Dragonstone, and he looked at it as why does Renly get dragon?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
and it doesn't really say, but I kind of think maybe Robert actually did it kind of as a it's a good thing.
Yeah, you mean giving his brother
giving him Dragonstone?
I think so too. Yeah. And the idea is that the Targaryens, that's where they would send typically their heir. If it was when they got to adulthood and they were married and stuff, obviously the children stay right there with them in King's Landing. But
so anyway, that's just another component to it. We saw it with Viserys and Maegor, and then we see it again here. Where Rhaenyra is set over there, and then. Spoiler alert, I guess, is it's really Rhaenyra's line that actually ends up continuing, right?
Yes, it does. It does.
So it's just crazy.
Yeah, it does. So and that's a little confusing too. That's why they distinguish between the two Aegons. She had a son named Aegon, and Alicent Hightower had a son named Aegon.
Mm-hmm. And there was
Aegon,
the
elder.
There was an Aegon before that we mentioned.
Sure, that just didn't
died.
become king. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Aegons. That's what I'll say. So let's dive back into this. So that's why I brought up the whole crown piece and just that they stole the crown. They crown her, the queen, right? She's in charge, man. Mm-hmm. And so now basically it's who can we get on whose side? So I don't know if I'll have Sir Matt look at this real quick. Just who lines up on which side? Which houses support?
Oh, I have that. Saved here.
The greens and the black.
At the outset of the war, Aegon II's chief supporters were Lord Hightower, Lord Lannister, and eventually Lord Baratheon. Mm-hmm. Lord Tully desired to fight for the king, but was old and bedridden, and his grandson defied him. Rhaenyra's chief supporters were her good father, Lord Valerian, her cousin, Lady Jane Eyre, and Lord Stark, though his help was slow in coming, as he kept every man to harvest what they could before winter fell to the north. And we'll get to Lord Stark a lot next week when we talk about the Hour of the Wolf.
Yeah.
Lord Greyjoy attacked the Westerlands in her name as well, to the shock of King Aegon, who had courted his support. The Tullys eventually joined Rhaenyra's cause in the defiance of the late Lord Tully's wishes. The Tyrells, however, remained uninvolved in the war, as did the Dornishmen.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Okay. So yeah, I mean, you got.
So it's like a real civil war. I mean, it's like
it's a split kingdom.
Because when we look at where we're at in Game of Thrones, as we'll get there eventually. You've got you've got kind of the North and the Tullys. And then you've kind of got like the War of Five Kings. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yep. Okay. Let's look here. A couple. I'm gonna pull this up and just kind of hop through it here. So after they're both crowned, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's as Sir Matt has just listed off the different houses who go get support. That's where a lot of some of these early battles take place, right? And you see. Different Targaryens taken out, like in the Stormlands, right? The Baratheons were there meeting with both the greens and the blacks, and it ends up that there's that they're killed. That one of the I think it's Aemon Targaryen is there for the greens, and one of Rhaenyra's sons was there as well, and he ends up getting killed. Actually, in the battle, I don't know if it's above the God's Eye or below the God's Eye.
I think it might just be called the Battle of the God's Eye.
Yeah. Okay.
Either way, yeah, not super important.
Right. So, there's an assault on Harrenhal. Like the blacks take Harrenhal, they get all that support from the Vale. They get the support from the North, and so they're kind of ramping up here. Now, to get into the nitty gritty of this, guys, would take way too long. The battles, for example, we have the assault on Harrenhal, the dance over Shipbreaker Bay. Let's see. Duskendale, there's a couple battles at Duskendale. Rook's Rest, Battle of the Gullet, Battle of the Honeywine, the Red Fork. My gosh, there's so many. Fall of King's Landing.
Well, they even say
Butcher's Ball
in World of Ice and Fire that they said there's too many, but these are some of that's the wording they use. Yeah,
I mean, we have a lot of information on this.
Yeah, right. The battles during the dance cannot be readily counted, for they were almost beyond number, and much of the realm was torn asunder in the conflict.
Right, exactly. So now we will, though, because we like talking about this kind of stuff, in our Black Council go over all of these. You had the first Battle of Tumbleton, you had the second Battle of Tumbleton, Fall of Dragonstone, Battle above the God's Eye.
By the way, we did, because we're limited to an hour on Patreon.
Yeah.
So it was 3 episodes, I guess, or 3 parts of Sons of the Dragon.
Yeah.
This might be a 5 to 7 part.
Yeah, it might span over 2 months, which is fine.
Really good.
Because we really want to do it justice. And there's that we want to cover each of these battles, right? So I'm going to kind of skip through some of the battles and what happens. We lose Sir Criston Cole. Basically, guys, all of the Targaryens on both sides just beat each other up to the point where dragons are lost, dragon riders are lost. Now, one interesting thing,
the dragon rider part is kind of, I think it's funny.
Which part? The dragon seeds?
Just like that they just kind of seek people like, hey, can you ride it?
Yeah, that's the one part I was going to pull out. So in the midst of all of this warring and stuff,
I think I have the quote here.
Yeah, the part about the dragon seeds is really neat. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so many attempted to mount dragons that were still available on Dragonstone. The most perilous of these were the wild dragons. So it was no wonder that the dragons who had previously accepted riders were the first to find new riders. Among these new dragon riders was Adam of Hall, a brave and noble youth who was brought by his mother, Marilda of Hall, to try for a dragon along with his brother Alan. She revealed that the boys were sons of Laenor Valerian, a fact that many found remarkable, but which Lord Corlys did not question when he adopted them both into House Valerian. And they kind of say that at one point in this chapter, they say that the people who lived on Dragonstone viewed them as like gods. They didn't even view them as their king. They viewed these people as like their gods. And they talk about how the Targaryens would sleep around, and so there's a lot of actually Targaryen blood just through the common people on Dragonstone.
Yep. Yeah, that is pretty neat. And the dragon seeds that were found play a big role. They end up switching sides at one point, betraying Rhaenyra and actually going over to Aegon II, but then at one point getting power hungry there as well too. So what do you got?
Yeah, here's the quote. On Dragonstone, where the Targaryens had long ruled, the common folk had seen their beautiful foreign rulers almost as gods. Many maids deflowered by Targaryen lords accounted themselves blessed if a dragon seed was planted in their womb, and for this reason there were many on Dragonstone who could rightly claim, or at least suspect, that some had Targaryen blood run in their veins. Yeah, and trust me, if these people think that having dragon blood in their veins, and having these Targaryen bastards is a good thing, just wait till we get to Aegon IV.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah. So I think it's neat to introduce the four people who eventually kind of became dragon riders. And to start this off, is it Corlys Valerian, right? Who at the time was a part of the Black Council, and he was married to Rhaenyra, or I can't blank on her name, Rhaenyra Targaryen, I think, or Rhaenyra.
Rhaenys.
Is it Rhaenys?
Might be.
Yeah. Gosh, they all run together. Rhaenys Targaryen.
It's not super important, by the way, guys.
Yeah, it's not huge. I'm just trying. The queen that was passed over.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. The granddaughter that was passed over by Jaehaerys the First. It marries Corlys.
Rhaenyra.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, she is important. Never mind. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's who that is. She ends up dying in this. She's a dragon rider and dies at one point. And it's her death that sort of causes her husband to say, "Look, I might leave. I might actually leave, your cause." And at that point, one of Rhaenyra's sons names him Hand of the Queen, and that was right to kind of set up this whole piece where they wanted to find the dragon seeds. So they're in a desperate situation when they turn to the dragon seeds. Now back to the four though that come out here. Hugh the Hammer, right, is one. Ulf the White, who rode Sea Smoke. Adam of no, I'm sorry, he didn't ride. He rode Silverwing. Oh, I mixed him up here. Vermithor was claimed by Hugh the Hammer. Excuse me. So that dragon, Vermithor, which we mentioned last week, was claimed by Hugh the Hammer. Silverwing is claimed by Ulf the White. Sea Smoke is claimed by Adam of Hall, and Sheep Stealer is actually claimed by a girl named Nettles, which is interesting. So, and I think Nettles is the only one who makes it out alive at the end of all of this, and we're not really sure where Nettles is. I have to do a little digging there. But so at one point, Hugh the Hammer and Ulf, they end up actually betraying the Greens, or sorry, the Blacks, and going to the Greens, and they are super abusive with their power because they have dragons.
Yeah, and it really talks about, and in the chapter, it just kind of briefly mentions they were really just more interested in lordship than they were anything else.
Right, and I think one of the big problems, too, is during a lot of these battles, and we aren't going to go through every single one of them, Aegon II is actually struck sort of like he is hurt.
Oh, he's very
big time hurt,
very severely injured. He basically gets burned, like one entire side of him, and they say that his armor, his metal actually gets fused almost into his arm from the fire. So they say he spends almost a year recovering.
Yeah, he's out of it for a good while, and he gets addicted to milk of the puppy and stuff like that. He's
puppy?
Out. Yes,
the puppy.
That's what I said. The puppy. I was hoping you wouldn't catch that.
It's okay.
So, anyways, but he's addicted, right? And so we have to get. So while he's addicted, those dragon seeds take advantage of that, and they switch sides, and it's really bad for the Greens.
Yeah.
But then after that, he comes back. He makes it back, and he and his brother, I think, are battling away, and I'm trying to figure out how to wrap the Dance of Dragons up here, because battle after battle happens.
Really, what kind of happened? It seems to me is that it's not really that any significant battle happens that kind of pushes away. It's almost like these battles just keep happening, and both sides just kind of get weeded out. It's not really like one big battle happens, and then the way it ends is kind of crazy. And there's another part here, which is it's kind of briefly mentioned, but it's kind of a big deal. It was the fear of dragons or their presence that gave birth to the shepherd. Who he was, we cannot say and his name is lost to history. Some suppose he was a poor beggar, others that he might have been one of the poor fellows who thought outlawed, still stubborn, haunted the realm. Whoever he was, he began to preach in the Cobbler Square, saying the dragons were demons and the spawn of godless Valyria and the doom of men. Scores listened, then hundreds, then thousands. Fear beget anger, and anger beget a thirst for blood. And when the shepherd announced that the city would be saved only when the city was cleansed of dragons, people listened. So that's another thing, is that it's not even. It sounds a lot like the High Sparrow in the middle part of A Song of Ice and Fire. I'm not super familiar exactly where it starts in the books, but it's definitely in the show, around season 5 and 6.
Right.
So you have that going on, where the people are kind of starting to be like, this is what is going on?
Yeah. Well, and they, it is the small folk who kind of rise, and they actually, they storm the dragon pit, and they end up killing 4 or 5 dragons in there. And so that's huge, because then the Greens did not have the chance to do what the Blacks did with dragon seeds. They just go in and say, no, we're done with this, and they kill them. So you're right, they do kind of start to get weeded out here, both the Targaryens and their dragons.
Yeah, and there's murder. The other thing is there's murders going on. Both sides are murdering people. We didn't even mention the part earlier
where they stole her and Queen Helena. Which son do you want to die? Right.
And it's Jaehaerys and her. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, she ends up picking her
young. Maybe it's Malin or something weird. Yeah. But he's it's a little kid, and she chooses him because she's he's young. He won't really get it, and so he kills Jaehaerys.
Right. So basically, that was Rhaenyra's husband, Daemon Targaryen, sneaks in to King's Landing and takes Aegon II's wife captive and his children, and forces her to kill. It wasn't Daemon. He had sent
the rat,
and what was his name? The Blood, right? Something like that. And these code names, wherever they go in, and they end up
they know the tunnels through,
right, and they're assassins. So you're right. There's plotting going on there. Lots of different things. I think one of the things we can jump to kind of help us wrap this up is Rhaenyra's death. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that might be. So she was.
Yeah. So right here. Yeah. And an end did come at last, but it was not the deaths of the dragons or of the princes that brought it about. Think about where they both die in the thing. And there's a lot of really big theories there we could dive into later.
Yeah.
They're right at the end, but instead the death of the queen and the king for whom they had perished. Rhaenyra died first. When her husband, Prince Daemon, fell, House Valyrian turned against her. With her enemies once more in possession of King's Landing, she fled, practically penniless, and was forced to sell her crown to find passage to Dragonstone. When she arrives, she finds a freshly injured Aegon II there before her, with his dying dragon, Sunfire. An interesting thing about Aegon II, which I've always just thought is cool, if you go on his wiki, he has his own personal coat of arms, which is like a golden dragon.
Yeah.
And it's just weird because
Sunfire,
he has the thing. Mine, and then basically what ends up happening is mob rule kind of in King's Landing. And I think how exactly does she die?
They actually sneak Aegon II out of King's. So she takes over at one point during all of this. The Blacks actually take over King's Landing. Okay, and when they do that, they actually had to smuggle. Remember, Aegon II was knocked out of this war for a while. They smuggle him.
That's where he's
to
recovering.
Dragonstone.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he goes to Dragonstone. So once this war gets going, and Rhaenyra sees that she's in King's Landing, as Sir Matt had just said, and things weren't going well, she tries to buy passage out of there, and she actually, I think, ends up trying to. She sold her crown to buy passage on a Braavosi ship, right? She returns to Dragonstone, hoping that she can hatch like a new dragon from the island's dragon eggs, and when she's there, let's see, her remaining men are captured, right? Her ladies and Aegon the Younger. Once inside the gate, she is faced with, as you said, Aegon II and a wounded Sunfire. Aegon the Elder fed Rhaenyra to his dragon, while Aegon the Younger looked on. So then, with the chance that Rhaenyra's loyalists would continue the fight in her son's name, Aegon the Younger became a hostage. So he keeps Aegon the Younger alive, but takes him hostage. Let's see. And then after that, he gets enough strength. There's a few more battles that are won. You get the battle of King's Road, which is interesting, where a lot of the Greens then pushed up north, and they were met with strong resistance. And actually, even though Rhaenyra has died, they continue the fight, and they actually beat back the Greens. And don't forget, we haven't mentioned in a long time, but the Starks are allies to the Blacks.
Yeah.
And so what happens is, at that point, after the battle of King's Road, Old Man Stark comes down, right? He comes south, and he brings a horde.
A pretty huge army.
Right, and so he brings this army down. Aegon II is back in King's Landing now and says, let's go. I got him. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go meet him on, he wants to continue the fight. Everyone else sees the writing on the Blacks are still all united, I guess, right? There's all the warring. They want to control the outcome of all of this, right? And so does, what's his name? Kragan Stark, right? And he comes down, and before they even get a chance to do battle, Aegon II is poisoned.
Yep.
And we don't know who the assassin was. He's poisoned.
Just said he was poisoned by the men who served him.
Right. We have a lot of theories on that.
Yeah.
In our reading.
The funny thing is, so he goes through all this trouble, beats Rhaenyra,
right.
And then it's Rhaenyra's line that continues. Yeah.
Yeah. Because again, the Starks come down, they find Aegon the Younger, and take care of him, and basically the only, for them to crown Aegon the Younger, Old Man Stark says that he has to become Hand of the King, so at that point you have a Stark who is Hand of the King, and it's but he does awesome.
I know,
he does a great job. He has all these different trials, and he ends up possibly killing a lot of witnesses and stuff to different assassinations.
Here's the last line here of this chapter I think is really important. The broken, shattered realm suffered for a while yet, but the dance of the dragons was done. Now what awaited the realm was the false dawn, the hour of the wolf, and the rule of regents and the broken king. And so the hour of the wolf is referring to when that Stark, Kragan Stark, is basically running the realm.
Yeah, he's running it,
and he seems like a boss.
He is, and he literally lays down the law, and some heads roll when that happens. So it's almost harder to trim it down. It's almost harder to trim.
And the thing is that unfortunately, this is sometimes I love the World of Ice and Fire book. But I will say, because it's kind of told to us by maesters, I think it's written this way very specifically. It jumps around a lot. And so you do almost have to kind of like pull it all together yourself.
Yeah.
Because I still go back and I read some of the Dawn Age stuff, and I'm like, I still don't understand the children and the Green Seers, and how do the Green Seers come about, because it doesn't really say. It's really confusing, but I think it's just written. It's very vaguely written.
Yeah.
And there's theories about that. the maesters who are writing this, like what's going on during the time
Yeah.
they're writing
Right.
it and
Yeah.
how that affects it.
Yep.
Like it's
Very true.
It's wild. So yeah, like the further we get into this book,
Yeah.
the easier it kind of gets because you have a lot more context. But some of this stuff is just kind of hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to unpack.
It is. And I guess I'll say in final summary here, just to very briefly take you through it one more time, Rhaenyra Targaryen, who was Viserys' first daughter, her brother by Alicent Hightower, Aegon II, those two battle. They
Yep.
have it out, and a lot, if not all of their kids are killed except for Aegon the Younger,
Right.
who was Rhaenyra's son.
Right.
And
Which
he makes it through all of this. And there are other Targaryens who make it through. They whittle it down to, I think they have 4 dragons left. I'm not sure what. I think Nettles may even have one of the dragons.
Yeah.
So it may just be 3. I'm not really sure if she came back or not. If those of you that are listening, please let me know, because I actually think there's more to that I didn't look up or didn't get before we started the show. But anyways, and so there's a lot of battles, a lot of lives are lost. Rhaenyra dies and Aegon II die. He dies shortly after he's poisoned, and then Lord Stark comes down, rules the kingdom, names Aegon the Younger to be the new king, and he is Aegon the Third. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of other stuff, but there it is. Okay, one of the tougher Maester studies we've ever had, I think.
I think it's the toughest Maester study because at least Aegon's conquest was straightforward.
Yeah,
and that was the biggest.
Well,
that was the biggest. But this one is just it's kind of the way it's written. It's all over the place because this is why we have that supplementary book, which is going to be great, and I'm glad Gur wrote it. And we'll dive into that for our Patreon thing because it's just so vague. It's like, well, then this guy died, then this guy died, and it's
you have to remember names that were mentioned several chapters ago under Jaehaerys and Viserys.
And unfortunately, it's also this time as we get closer to like the main series, a lot of the Targaryen names actually become a lot easier to
distinguish between
because everybody gets nicknames, right? Like Bittersteel and Bloodraven and the Dragon Knight and all the and so here in this kind of Aegon II, Aegon III, it's kind of really wonky and hard to follow.
Yeah,
because there's just so many of them.
Exactly. The next toughest one I think will be Aegon the Fourth.
Yeah,
and his bastards and things like that. So that will be a tricky one for us to navigate through. So, but we've got a couple more kings to get to before we get there. So we should be good for the next couple weeks. So, thanks for hanging in there. We appreciate it, and I think we're ready to dive into.
Hope you're confused as we are.
Yeah. All right, close this bad boy. Let's close that big book and let's move on.
Yeah, all right, here. Okay, so recap of last week. After exploring the camp, Sansa Stark goes riding with her betrothed, Prince Joffrey, near the Ruby Ford. They come across Arya Stark and a butcher's boy play fighting. Joffrey begins to torment the boy until Arya attacks him. So this week's chapter 16, Eddard. Arya and Joffrey tell King Robert very different stories concerning their fight near the Trident. When Sansa claims she does not remember, Queen Cersei demands the death of a direwolf with Nymeria gone. Lady is sentenced to death instead. And I'll really quickly say, I think this is by far one of the better scenes from the book to the show. I think it's translated very well. I think the show does a very good job of getting this scene done in a couple minutes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
it stays very, very true to it. So
yeah, I guess I'm going to dive into one of my bigger. It's not as big of a takeaway as I've had in the past.
Should we break it down into
thirds? Do you have thirds? Yeah.
Well, I guess there's really. I'd say there's 3 parts to this. You have the first part where Ned is looking for Arya out in the woods. Then you kind of have the trial of Joffrey and Arya, and then you kind of have what I consider kind of the third part, which is the sentencing and what ensues.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Okay, so my first just big takeaway here out of the whole chapter, kind of the castle in which they're staying right now. It was a modest holding, a half day's ride south of the Trident. The royal party had made themselves the uninvited guest of its lord, Sir Raymond Derry. While the hunt for Arya and the butcher's boy was conducted on both sides of the river, they were not welcome visitors. Sir Raymond lived under the king's peace, but his family had fought beneath Rhaegar's dragon banner at the Trident, and his 3 older brothers had actually died there. A truth neither Robert nor Sir Raymond had forgotten. So I just thought this was kind of interesting that you've got, Kingsmen, you've got Dairymen, Lannistermen, and Starkmen all there, right?
That's my big highlight of the week.
Was it
as
really?
well? Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exact same passage. I don't know why. I just like, oh man,
it's a history connection,
it
right?
Is,
Back to Robert's Rebellion, and I think actually, I could be wrong about this, but I think House Dairy comes up again later with Targaryen banners. There's something mentioned down the road here, so I have to.
Yeah, I think there's a part where Tyrion. I want to say Tyrion is riding somewhere, and he notices that some of these like smaller holdfasts even still have the Targaryen banner flying.
Yep. Which is crazy, right?
Yeah,
crazy. So, what do we have here? So that we're looking for Arya, right? That's basically the gist of it.
Yeah, and then basically, really, I think kind of the biggest takeaway from that is when they find out that that the Lannister men had found her first,
right?
And then they have that line from Ned. He's like, "Damn that woman."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and they don't take her to her father, which is interesting. So I think a lot of it, you can see in this chapter, Robert Baratheon is very much swayed, things that he doesn't really care about. He lets the Lannisters go for it. He just kind of lets it happen. You know what I mean? I don't think anything serious was going to happen to Arya, but really, I think Robert's the whole thing is he wants to get this done and over with as fast as possible.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Yeah,
he thinks it's dumb.
He thinks it's dumb, and it is kind of dumb. But Cersei is making it such a huge deal.
Is the thing I think I said the last time we had the Ned kind of chapter, is that Robert in the books, there's kind of a difference between him and the books of the show. In the books, he does give a lot more sway to Cersei and the Lannister family, where he's like, they're my family. What do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Where in the books, he just seems like he just hates them. Doesn't want anything to do with them.
Exactly.
Or in the show, excuse me.
Yep. Now, interesting, as we walk in here and we're Ned is finally, he sees Arya, right? She's sobbing, she's sorry, she's shaking, etc. And he's comforting her. But it's the men in the room that kind of stood out to me, right? There's a bunch of different men, as we mentioned. There was the Dairymen, Lannistermen, Kingsmen, all that good stuff, Starkmen. But you've got Lord Renly is there, and Sir Barristan. Sir Barristan Selmy is there. And so I thought that was kind of neat to see them there. And you can kind of read from their body language and their facial expressions what they think of this whole mess. They're smart guys, and they can see through a lot of this Lannister malarkey.
Yeah, I mean, right here, it's like... but for his own men, there were few enough. Sir Merriman Derry guarded his look well. Lord Renly wore a half smile that might mean anything, and old Sir Barristan was grave. The rest were Lannister men and hostile. Their only good fortune was that both Jaime Lannister and Sandor Clegane were missing, leading sources north of the Trident. Then this is kind of a big thing here. Just the difference of what Ned maybe just knows he can get away with, or maybe he just doesn't care. Yeah. Because would he say this to any king? Why was I not told that my daughter had been found? Ned demanded, his voice ringing. Why was she not brought to me at once? He spoke to Robert, but it was Cersei Lannister who answered. How dare you speak to your king in that manner? Followed up immediately by, at that, the king stirred. Quiet, woman, he snapped. I'm sorry, Ned. I know, you know what I mean?
Again, he's just asking a question. It's not like he, I get that there's a tone and whatnot or whatever, but it's a good question. I think
it is. Oh, it's a very good question.
Ned has a high he's holding he expects the king to be kingly.
Yeah.
Right. And he's starting to notice that his friend is not really a good king, and he doesn't really want to rule. Really.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point you bring up, because, later I think we start to see Ned very briefly throughout every time he's interacting with Robert. That idea of him starts to get chipped away, even from the get go, where it's like he when he tries to go down to the crypts, he can't.
Yeah.
He's out of breath, and then when he's talking about wanting to kill Daenerys, he's like, what are you talking about? You're talking about murdering a child. And then here, and then later when he goes and immediately sits on the council and he finds out that the crown's, however many million in debt.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a really good point.
Yep. So what else we got? Basically, we get into the Lannister woman, right? She's calling out Arya for attacking and brutally wounding her son.
Yeah, this is where we kind of get. He said, she said, Joff told us what happened. The queen said, you and the butcher boy beat him with clubs, and while you set your wolf on him. That's not how it was. Arya said, close to tears again. Ned put a hand on her shoulder. Yes, it is. Joffrey insisted. They attacked me. Then they threw lion's tooth in the river. Mm-hmm. Ned noticed he did not so much as glance at Arya as he spoke. Liar, Arya yelled. Shut up, the prince yelled back. Enough, the king roared, rising from his seat with his voice thick in irritation. Says kind of the same thing. Has them each tell their story. As Arya began to tell her story, Ned heard the door open behind him. He glanced back and saw Van Poole enter with Sansa. They stood quietly at the back of the hall as Arya spoke. When she got to the part where she threw Joffrey's sword into the middle of the trident, Renly Baratheon began to laugh. The king bristled. Sir Barristan, escort my brother from the hall before he chokes. Mm-hmm. Lord Renly stifled his laughter. My brother is too kind. I can find the door myself. He bowed to Joffrey. Perchance later you'll tell me how a 9-year-old girl the size of a wet rat managed to disarm you with a broom handle and throw your sword into the river. And then as he's kind of leaving, he's chuckling and saying lion's tooth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's I think that should tell you everything, right? It's sort of a joke.
Absolutely.
He's been trained by, this did not go the way Joffrey said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they just jumped him and beat him up, No, that's not true. And Sansa's coming in here to try to add a little clarity to all of this. And she's
air quotes clarity.
Clarity, yeah. And she is she does not help the situation at all. And she's in a tough spot, right? I mean, she is betrothed to Joffrey, right? She's to wed him. And to come in and call him a liar is, what's she supposed to do? You know what I mean? So I think people always jump on the whole, Arya train, and I do too. Why didn't she just tell the truth? And instead she chooses this whole I don't remember. I don't really know. I don't really want to talk about it.
Yeah. And I think, we say it every week, and as we go forward, it just gets more and more important is POV, point of view. I mean, Imagine this chapter from Sansa's point of as Sansa was the character, if Arya was the character. And so I think it's actually really great that it's Ned, where he's kind of in the middle of all this. He had no idea what was going on. He just hears Arya's been missing for days. They find her. He gets drug in, and he's like, what is happening?
Right, yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's a bunch of kids. It's a bunch of kids, fighting and things. But
and even still,
but they're royal kids.
And even still, I mean, you kind of start to see it here, where
highborn
is that every step he takes with the king and the Lannisters he. I don't want to say he's outmatched, but it just seems like it's just too much. So kind of once you get in, because immediately they've already found her, and then when he shows up, not only have they've got her on trial. So walks in and his daughter's on trial essentially.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Well, and the next bit here is even crazier. Cersei wants her punished.
Yeah,
exactly. They're getting bolder and bolder and bolder, and I think this has been building for years. They know they've got Robert where they want him. He can't really do much. He's indebted to the Lannisters. Their marriage, air quotes, keeping things together.
Yeah.
And so when she wants to see Arya punished,
first
he gets pissed.
Yeah. Well, first is Sansa steps in and starts to tell her side of the story, where she says, "I don't remember it. I don't remember everything." And Arya then kind of attacks her, and it's a mess. And then that girl is as wild and as that filthy animal of hers. Robert, I want her punished, like you said. 7 hells, Robert swore. Cersei, look at her. She's a child. What would you have me do? Whip her through the streets? Damn it. Children fight. It's over. No lasting harm was done. The queen was quite furious. Joff will carry those scars for the rest of his life. So he will. Perhaps they will teach him a lesson. Ned, discipline your daughter. I'll do the same with my son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's actually pretty darn close to the way they do it in the show.
Yep.
Which is awesome. And that should be the end of it, right? That should be the end of it. But the Lannisters just push too far, and and it's what about the wolf, right? What about this dire wolf? and they can't find Nymeria. They can't. It was said there. I think Jaime and we had mentioned Sandor are gone right now. So they come back here and it's something that gets interesting. But who was it that said that they couldn't find any trace of her? I don't know if it was a Lannister.
Oh, I think it's right here. Gladly your grace, Ned said with a vast relief. Robert started to walk away, but the queen was not done. And what of the direwolf? She called after him. What of the beast that savaged your son? The king stops, turned around. I've forgotten about the damn wolf. Then it says, Jory spoke up quickly. We found no trace of the direwolf, your grace. Robert did not look happy. Ned, no, so be it. Then she offers 100 dragons. And then she says, well, we still have another wolf, essentially. And she's talking about Sansa's lady.
You're right. Yep. And she calls for Sir Ilyn to basically bring, the wolf's head to her to kill the wolf. And that Sansa freaks out, starts throwing a fit. And I think that's, I don't know.
Oh, I think it's justified. I mean, early Sansa, this one is actually kind of justified, where it's like, why is my wolf getting killed?
For sure. But that's sort of thing. She's sort of realizing here the harsh realities, that, like some of the truths that lessons that she'll learn in King's Landing, right? With Cersei, and this becomes a reoccurring theme. She's tortured by the Lannisters. The Lannisters just do all these awful things.
Even here, though,
to her.
like after this, Arya it's like, I'm done with them. Like, I want nothing to do with them.
Right. Yes.
But even Sansa's like, no, like
I know.
She still is. Joffrey's my betrothed.
Yep.
The queen treats me well. You know.
Yep. She doesn't see it. It just takes her longer to see that. And it's just difference in personality. And that's where Arya was talking about just their difference in smarts earlier on, who could do numbers, who couldn't do numbers, what they were good at. And one of the things Sansa's not good at is seeing this. She is obsessed with the idea of becoming the next queen, though. I mean, that's the thing, is that she's, that's what's kind of holding her to the Lannisters and keeping her. But she freaks out here, and she throws a royal fit, and it's justified. And then at this point, Ned then steps in, right, and is super upset and says, like, is this really, because Robert says, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, Ned says, do it yourself.
Right. Calls him out.
Yeah.
And says, swing the sword yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Robert just he says nothing and just walks out.
He walks away. And again, no one else would be able to get away with that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, but, it's this learning process he's seeing very early on with the king is where he's at, his state of mind and things. And then Cersei thinks it's a trick when Ned says, bring me ice,
Yeah, because they say send for Ilyn Payne.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's not having any of that, and so and I think it's such a cool thing too. It's just like the direwolf is of House Stark. It's of the North. It's their it's on their sigil, right? I mean, you can't let Sir Ilyn Payne go out and kill this direwolf. Do it yourself, and do it the right way, and then they send the direwolf back to the North. Its bones go back to the North. Because I think Cersei mentions that she wants the wolf's pelt at some point, and Ned's just like, no way, she'll never have that pelt. Send it north, and I think it's great, So pretty powerful stuff. Now on the way out, there's this bit with Jaime Lannister, and
real quick here. One thing I do think is a difference is that Jory brings him ice. In the show, I think he just uses a dagger. I think he just kind of walks up to it, pets it, and then kind of does it.
Yeah.
Not that I think it's really that big of a difference or anything, but
right, it's different. He just slits the dog's throat, I think, in the show, versus here, it was probably a little bit more. The dog is chained up, so Lady is chained up, and he does mention that, for the first time, when he calls and he speaks to Lady, he realizes how much their names. How thoughtful the kids were in naming their direwolves, and how much they took on the characteristics of the Stark children, and he's impressed by that, So, and it gets kind of emotional. I think it's starting to set in too that he has left the North, and things are not they're not as comfortable down south. So, but anyways, so as he's done with that and he's heading out, this is the part where they do see. Sandor Clegane comes back in, right? And he has what looks like a pack on his horse's back there. And I think Ned thought it was Nymeria.
No.
Right? He thinks it's Nymeria at first. But we find out it's the butcher's boy. And it's pretty messed up, man. Sandor, like, you know, wrote him down, killed him, and didn't need to.
Yeah.
And the only reason that he did, he says that he killed him, is because the boy ran.
Yeah.
So what? You're on a horse. You're a knight. You know. And he just.
Are we sure the Hound killed him? Or was it maybe it was another man?
Might
I don't know. It just to me, I've often wondered about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even at
he
this
might
point,
not have.
Even at this point, it just doesn't seem like the Hound's
would do that
character. It just doesn't seem, because immediately the next chapter we have of him is, I believe, the next Sansa chapter where they're out having dinner.
Yeah.
And it's where Sansa's being walked back by the Hound, and he kind of tells her how he got his scars,
right?
You know? And even it just doesn't seem like he's kind of having this, like, not, I say intimate, not like romantically intimate, you know, just like a intimate kind of.
He shows a softer side.
Yeah, exactly.
Like later on, I honestly have wondered that myself. So it's interesting that you brought that up, because we haven't talked about this. I know we haven't, but I think he often does these things in the camp and in front of other Lannister men and other people, just to make him seem like he has to keep that persona up, right? He's got to keep that facade up. And he plays the game. He's been in King's Landing long enough to play the game, and he's trying to teach Sansa later on how to play the game and how to, you know, keep her head.
Even once Tyrion slaps Joffrey, when he walks away, he says he'll remember that.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why would, you know, but he doesn't say it as like, you better watch out. He's saying it's like, you know, he'll remember that. He kind of says it's like, he'll remember that. You better be careful.
It's more of a warning.
Right.
It's almost like
a threat.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's like away from Joffrey, and in certain places, you can see a different side of him, you know, and it's subtle. And Gur does a good job of kind of hiding it and weaving it, or starting off with something like this and making us think, well, this guy's evil. This guy's terrible.
Well, because he doesn't say that he killed him. He just says he ran, but not very fast.
Mm-hmm.
He might have just, I mean, you never know. He could have died. I mean, he could have gotten injured. You never know. I mean, could also have died of exhaustion. If you're running for 4 days and you're not eating.
Yeah. He does talk about writing him down.
Well, I guess it does say he had been cut. He cut almost in half, shoulder to waist.
Yeah, he did cut him in half. So,
well, it just says he was cut. It says he was cut in half. It doesn't say that the Hound did it.
Oh, okay. Okay, interesting. You sure? Let's see. Where are you reading that at? Go ahead and read it to us.
It's right here. Sorry, my phone turned off there. Bending, Ned pulled back the cloak, dreading the words he would have to find for Arya, but it was not Nymeria after all. It was the butcher's boy, Micah. His body covered in dried blood. So they must have found him and rode back quite a ways. He had been cut almost in half from shoulder to waist by some terrible blow struck from above. You rode him down, Ned said. The Hound's eyes seemed to glitter through the steel of that hideous dog's head helm. He ran. He looked at Ned's face and laughed, but not very fast. Just saying.
Yep. Okay. There's a chance.
Necessarily it seems far more likely that Jaime at this point would do something like that.
Maybe. Yeah, for sure. So, anyways, all right, that's it. I mean,
so there's a rabbit hole for you guys. Let us know.
Did the Hound actually
do it?
Kill the butcher's boy? Yeah.
They're out with a lot of men. So.
Yeah. Yep. And there's actually more evidence too. If you look later on in the series with his conversations with Arya, are real telling too.
That he didn't do it.
Well, it's still ambiguous.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, you could. Yeah, I'd have to go back and read them exactly, but I mean, there are a lot of him kind of explaining his past sins, and him basically saying to a little girl that you don't understand the position that I'm in, and you don't understand the world. And he's right, actually, she doesn't, you know. Yeah. So, but okay, guys, that's it for this week. That's the Eddard 3 point of view, chapter 16. Let us know on Facebook, thoughts you guys had about the chapter. We'll try to include those in the recap and talk about those here on the show. We love doing that sort of thing. I think our cool connection, we've already mentioned, which you and I both pulled out, was the idea that they're staying at House Dairy, right? And that's significant and stuff. Yep. We can look at house. At one point, I'd like to break down all the houses, and that's just, it's a huge task. But to look at certain houses, maybe do a house of the week or something, and talk about their house and their history and stuff. But yeah.
So, all right, let's move on over to Send a Raven. This one is from Ty Strader, who's from some other projects we're involved with, where I noticed him from originally. And guys, so for those of you guys maybe who just listened to the main show, as we like to call it, Follow-Up Friday, sometimes we get a question, and then that question kind of comes back up over the next couple of weeks.
Right.
And we've had one question that we're shocked is still going on, and people are talking about it. I feel like we're about to have a science experiment at some point here.
Yeah. I'm about to go get Gur and say, so how do we make a Valyrian steel blade? And have him
how do we make a Valyrian steel warhammer? It keeps coming back. Here we go here. You all mentioned the fact that Valyrian steel is lighter than normal steel. So for 2 warhammers of similar size, the Valyrian steel one would have less energy than a regular steel one if swung at the same speed. Since a warhammer gets its lethality from the energy it can impact into a target, a Valyrian steel warhammer would be less effective than a regular steel warhammer as far as sheer stopping power. The lighter weight might allow for more versatility as far as defensive asset, but that's a topic for another time. Love the podcast, and hopefully it makes it on air. Well, it did.
Yep, made it on.
And we had someone originally, I believe this was introduced by Sam, I want to say. The idea of he was asking about other things. We looked up
armor and swords,
and then I want to say Sir Robert kind of broke down what you want it to be heavier, because that's how a hammer gets its thing here. Yeah. So, and here, actually, I guess I can say that the speed of it, there's the other part too, where Valyrian steel weapons also are kind of magic.
Yeah.
So you have to take that into it. But in terms of blocking, I guess it would be able to block things better. So you had a Valyrian steel shield. But blocking with a warhammer, I cannot imagine is super easy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you guys a channel I've mentioned before. Go on YouTube and look up. I believe it's like Skullgrim. He breaks down all kinds of medieval weapons. He even talks about some of the weapons in Game of Thrones and like Lord of the Rings and things like that. And he talks about the difference of a mace and a warhammer and like where it's usable and what's kind of best for battle, like one-on-one, all of these kinds of things. He breaks down all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I would definitely want to plug his thing there. But
it's tough too, because this is it's a different type of
weapon. It's not a sword where it's cutting. You're talking about blunt force.
Right. And this is interesting. I would love to hear more people break it down, because I'm not a science guy, but
Me either.
Mass, speed, density, all that type of stuff, and the power it would take, is it, because the Valyrian steel sword is lighter, if I'm at the same strength and I'm holding one versus the other, can I get the same amount of, can I swing it at the same speed?
Right, because
for how long?
Right, what I mean? Yeah, because if you're talking like a sword, with a sword, it depends on what material you're using, right? Mm-hmm. And the sharpness. You want it as long as it's sharp and durable, which Valyrian steel is like the ultimate. It's like it's like invincible basically. And so then for you, that's fine, because you're gonna cut right through something.
Yeah.
But then if you are talking about a blunt force object, I'm not a science guy here, but this is kind of my thought on it. Is essentially you are swinging something that is not going to break. So, I guess you also have to think about what's holding the hammer, right? Is the whole thing steel, or is it is the hammer part Valyrian steel, and then you still have like a wooden, I guess arm or whatever you call it holding it. That's definitely a part of it too. So I guess I guess for a hammer it may come down more so to the user. So, but you could still block with it, and I guess blocking would be better because it's invincible. So I guess it doesn't loosely invincible. I use that term, but
yeah, man. I don't know. That's a great. It is a little over my head.
It's way over my head. Yeah,
and so
I did not take physics or chemistry. Took biology.
Yeah. I took a little chem, but didn't do as hot as I should have. But no, I hope people keep sending us more thoughts on weapons and armor and stuff, because it is really interesting. Sir Matt, the other day, the YouTube channel that you showed me.
Yeah, we were talking about called like Skullgrim is the guy's name. He's like the biggest on YouTube. He's like 1 million subscribers.
Yeah, I know we mentioned this before, but we were looking at armor. We were looking at the different types of chainmail and
plate mail, scale
mail, and stuff, and
ring mail. It's all different. Yeah,
it's all very different, and to see the way in which it can be pierced, what weapons work best against it, is very interesting. And I bet I never thought too much about how much research you'd have to do writing a story like this, and that Gur probably likes those things and is probably very interested in that. So, you pay attention to the armors that are worn. So anyways, yeah, I'm glad to hear people talking about it. So hopefully we'll get a few more Ravens about that kind of stuff, because it's interesting. So, and educate Sir Ezra, please.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So thanks so much. Make sure you send those Ravens to btkcast@gmail.com. You can also send us a voicemail at 614-547-2350. All right. I believe I've got Sir Matt up for this one here. We are going to Man the Wall. This is our Patreon series plug. We do Green Dreams. We do what all do we? I mean, Black Council. We've got Meat and Cheese. We've got several different things going on there. A lot of good stuff. We put polls up there. Also, if you're interested in T-shirts, if you take the black at the $10 tier, we will send out T-shirts. Those T-shirts were sent out last week, so we have people getting those. And hopefully, once you get your T-shirt, we'd like you to, possibly, take a picture with it, tag us, tag BTK Cast in it.
Yeah, and we'll say for those patrons, you'll notice some other goodies.
Yeah, a couple of things.
Just a couple little small things.
Yeah, we have another surprise coming up too in the fall. Something that Sir Ezra's working on, and I can't wait to kind of send that out to our patrons. It should be a lot of fun. So we're trying to hit those goals, trying to work towards a full suit of armor and possibly a trial by combat.
Yeah, I want to joust.
Sir Matt wants to joust me, and we're
gonna die.
I would die. I would maybe take your lance right off my shield. It would break just like in the movie, and you would literally a shard of it would shoot through my neck, and I would be dead. I'm just telling you, that would be my luck, straight up. And then what would you? I mean,
I don't know. We should just get like American Gladiator, foam things, and just get on.
It would probably be the horse that would kill me. I don't think I would be stuck in the stirrups, and I wouldn't be all of a sudden it would take off, and I would.
Well, we were watching that video on YouTube of, I guess there is actually some sort of medieval team base where they have countries go, and
those guys knock the crap out of each other.
Oh my gosh, they were people were breaking. They're wearing full suit of armor. They're using blunted axes and stuff, and they're just going at it. And they're showing the guys I think I broke my arm. People sub in. Oh my god, yeah.
Some guy broke his leg.
Yeah. So we need to find something that is, less than that, but far more than LARPing.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, LARPing.
LARPing is cool.
It's cool for the people that if you like to do it and stuff like that. I just want something a little more
intense.
Yeah, a little more intense. Yeah. That's why I kind of think American Gladiators. Yeah, okay, we could.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are going to do the archery.
Yeah,
we're going to do the archery competition when we reach that goal, which will be fun.
I think we're going to hit that.
We're about to.
Yeah, we're about to. Yeah.
So that'll be fun, and we'll have. If you guys think of other fun competitions you'd like to see us
medievally
do, crazy stuff you want to see us do, send it our way, and we would love to make because we can make in between goals some sort of short stuff that would be fun, and post some videos of us doing crazy stuff. We're willing to.
We tried to come up with absurd Patreon goals. I think one of them was before the Trial of Combat was. I'll get chainmail and do Warrior Dash.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, could you imagine?
It's gonna be so awful.
But one of the things, if we get super up there, is to possibly vote on a gather our 7 and have a trial by 7.
Yeah. Lord Adam Parker has already said he's down.
Yeah, I know, and I think Lady Lauren is down as well, and so other people have mentioned that they might be interested in doing something like that, and we would make it. Fun or whatever.
Sarabi, I think he might be down.
Yeah. So it just an idea, just a thought out there that we're toying around with. So, okay. So I think we have our knighting ceremony, and we'll go through that.
Lady Jennifer of House Kelly has sworn before the eyes of gods and men to defend those who cannot defend themselves, protect all women and children, to obey her captains, her liege lord, and her king, to fight bravely when needed, and to do such other tasks that are laid upon her, however hard or humble or dangerous they may be. Rise, Lady Jennifer.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. We are working, and I would love for Jamie and some of the other maesters out there to send us we can make our own. Sir Matt and I literally wrote we have the second version of the knighting ceremony. We basically finished the one that Gur started. We did the last 3 lines. So if you guys have something that maybe that at the Citadel, I know that they swear off, all lands, titles, and things like that, very similar to the Night's Watch. So if you guys come up with something, we are down to make that the official, sort of vow, oath, whatever that you guys take. And so we would love to hear that. I love hearing your voices on the podcast. I love putting your names in the podcast and doing fun stuff like
Absolutely.
that. So it's a community, it's a book club, and that's really what it's all about for us. So there are 7 kingdoms. Okay.
Yeah, and we gotta I love when we get the voicemails. So
yeah,
those are great.
All right, I think that's it. Don't forget to check out the Black Council, Green Dreams, new things coming up. If you are a patron, you probably received an insider's little something special to cue you in on what's coming up and what your thoughts back on those.
A public notice, I'll say.
Yeah, a public notice. So
all right, it's time to say farewell. We want to thank you for playing the Game of Thrones. In our next episode, we will be discussing Chapter 17, Bran 3.
If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like us, write a review, leave a comment, or send us a raven at btkcast@gmail.com.
We will see you in a week, and remember that winter is coming.